Um, just so everybody knows, I am losing my voice here today. I apologize for that. So my voice is probably going to be going up and down and sounds a little strange here today, but I apologize for that. And it looks like my video is doing something strange again, but I'm sure that will come with us here in just a second. But first off, I wanted to talk about what exactly is Microsoft Loop? What is this application that we can use? So the reason you probably came here is because you may have heard of Loop. You may have seen it as a feature that we have available for our Microsoft 365 apps, or you might have seen somebody else using Loop. Well, one of the things to keep in mind is this is one of our Microsoft applications that does allow us to be able to connect with other people in a different way than we connect like email and chatting. This is going to be an interactive component that we can have live. So we can be entering information at the same time as other people. So there's really going to be a couple of different aspects to this Loop app that we're going to see. And we're going to see different ways that we can actually use the Loop app as well, because we can use it in different programs like Microsoft Teams. We can use it in Outlook. We can use it in OneNote. So I'll give you examples of different places that you can actually use it. But a big question is, do I have to pay for it? The answer is no. There is not an additional cost to use Microsoft Loop. Loop is included with your Microsoft 365 subscription. So there is not an additional cost to it. So a few of the benefits of using a Loop component or using the Loop app itself is because of the fact that it is real-time collaboration. So it's a way that we're going to be able to interact with other people in a email, in OneNote notebooks, in a chat, etc., and be able to have the updates to the information be live. Also, it's cross-platform compatible, meaning we can use it in multiple other places. It's very easy to create and maintain. It has seamless integration with other systems, including other third-party applications as well. So lots of different benefits to using Loop. So what are some different options that we might be using with Microsoft Loop? Well, we can create a list of ideas. We can use Loop for a product launch, features to develop, to create a place where we can type in ideas and do brainstorming. It's being interactive. If one person adds something, we'll be able to see it no matter where we're looking at that actual Loop component. Now you'll see some examples of that, and that will make more sense as we kind of go along here. But there's really going to be three different kind of major elements of using Microsoft Loop. One is going to be the component in itself. We're going to spend a majority of our time working on the component part of it. But there is Loop pages and there's a Loop workspace that at the end we'll take a brief look at what those are for us as well. But let's get started with using an actual loop. So I mentioned that we can use Loop in different applications. So it kind of will depend on where you are and what you're doing as to where would you like to use a Loop component from. So for me, I use it in a lot of applications. There isn't just one application that I use it in. I do use it a lot of different options. So one is going to be Microsoft Teams. I probably use Loop components the most in Teams and OneNote notebooks. So if I come into my Microsoft Teams, the different places that I can take advantage of a Loop component is one is in a chat. So let me give you an example of using a Loop component in a chat. So if I go to a previous chat with somebody or I start a brand new chat, one of the tools that you have on that chat window is going to be the loop component. And you'll see that in actually a lot of different places. So let me show you what the icon looks like, and you're going to probably recognize it. So if I come down to the bottom where I'm going to type my message, you have the toolbar over on the right-hand side. That's where you can find the loop component. So it's this little circle icon. Looks like a little circle. And when you click on it here in a chat, you're going to get a menu of different templates that you could actually be using to create a loop component. So what you're going to see right away is it says loop paragraph at the top, and it says people in your organization with a link would actually have access to this loop component. But I'm chatting with somebody right now, so I'm not sharing it with other people. I'm really using this loop component just with one other person as a chat tool. And you can see in this loop component, I can be adding in a table, a bulleted list. I could have a checklist, a task list, a voting table. We have another template called numbered list. And then if I go to the ... menu, I'm going to see that I have other options besides that. So these are going to be like little built-in templates that we can use for these loop components. So just to give you an example, if I click Q&A session, it's going to give me a pre-designed component that we can actually be entering information in. So as you can see, it says it's showing me enter a question or ask a question. I can click and just start typing as well. But I'm going to click where it says enter a question. So if I have a question, we've been chatting about a specific feature. Maybe we're going to do a blood drive. And let's say that I'm chatting with this person because we're organizing this blood drive. And I need to know, have we established the location for the blood drive? So I'm going to put that in as a question. Is the location established? And then someone can come out and click answer. Whoever I share this loop component with can come out here and answer the question that I have posed. Other people that have access to this loop component would be able to go and respond to this as well. So not just me and the person I'm chatting with, a loop component can actually be shared in other places as well. So we can continue this conversation here in this chat, or I could open this loop component directly in the Loop app. I'll show you that when I get done with this one. But first, let me show you a few other examples. So if I have this loop component and we're using it because we want to have a central location for people to come out and ask questions, and then somebody can bring in the answer, whoever knows the answer could go ahead and respond with that answer. So you're going to see that it has this at the very top, it says loop paragraph, and it says open in browser. If I wanted to open this loop component in the Loop app, I could click on that open in browser and it would take me directly to the app. Otherwise, where it says people in your organization with the link have access, sorry, I've got a weird setting here today. But anyway, just so you could see, I can come into the link settings. So I could say anybody within my domain that this gets shared with can respond to this loop component. Or I can say only the people currently in this chat can respond, or only people with existing access. So this is just like the sharing capabilities that you have with like sharing a file and things like that. It's the same. So we can say, can they edit? Can they just view? We also can set an expiration date. So I could say, I just want the people that are a part of this chat to be able to use this. I'm going to click apply, and now it's not available to share with everybody in the company. But if I added somebody to this chat, they're going to be able to respond to this. So if I go to the top right of my chat window and I click the icon to add people, I could add other people to this chat and they would be able to collaborate with us, with me and student one, on this loop component. So that's going to be another option for you to really limit who has access to this. Add other people to the chat, or you could share it with people if you wanted to. Anybody in your company could have access. But let's take this a little further, because this is just one example of using a loop component. I do want to show you a very popular option. Here in Microsoft Teams, we can also put a loop component in a meeting. If you haven't seen this yet or haven't used it, you definitely should start, because this is a great feature. If we go to the calendar here in Teams, and let's say that I need to create an appointment for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'm going to go to the appointment for 9 o'clock, and maybe this is going to be a department meeting. I'm going to put in HR department meeting. Of course, I could invite people, but I'm going to maximize out this window for this appointment. And when I do that, I'm going to say this is going to be a Teams meeting. I'm going to slide the button over to be a Teams meeting. But then at the very bottom, where it says add an agenda, I'm going to click that link at the bottom for add an agenda. That by default is using a loop component. So that automatically shows us a pre-formatted loop component built for meetings. Notice that it has the same name as the name of the meeting, so HR department meeting. It has a section to it for agenda, where we could come in and start putting in our topics. So new business, we probably want to talk about old business. We want to talk about, new employees, whatever the case would be, we could be adding those to our agenda. During the meeting, we could come into meeting notes. So as we're conducting the meeting in the Teams, we will have access to this, and we'll be able to come in and add additional agenda items. We'll be able to come in and type in our meeting notes. And there's also another section to this loop component that's called follow-up tasks. So before, during, and after the meeting, we can be putting in details. So let's say that during this meeting, we have a task that we want to add to this follow-up task. So I'm going to click Add Task. Excuse me. It brings up this table that is a part of this section for us to be able to enter in what are the tasks. So let's say that I have a task that I'm going to add in that's going to be follow-up with new employees. And I want to assign that to myself. I can assign it to me, and I can put in a due date. Now, if you assign a task to somebody, it's going to automatically let them know that they've been assigned to that task. So this agenda feature built into Microsoft Teams meetings is, to me, one of my favorite features that they have added to creating an event in Microsoft Teams. So let's say that I invite people to come to the meeting. I'm going to invite student 1 to come to the meeting, etc., etc. I've got all these people coming to the meeting. Once you send the meeting request, you're going to hold the meeting. You're going to actually start the meeting. So you're going to go to that meeting. You're going to do join. And as soon as you join that meeting, it will open up the Teams meeting window and it's going to show you the notes on the right-hand side. The notes on the right-hand side is going to give you access to the agenda, that notes area, and that task list at the bottom. So it's the same exact loop component that you were seeing when we created the event. Now, because we're in a Teams meeting, I can't show you what that window looks like, but definitely practice with that. See how you're going to be able to take advantage of that as well, because I seriously think that that is such a great tool to be using. Highly recommend it. But are there other ways I can be using a loop component here in Microsoft Teams? Yes, we can. And another way is in a team. So if I go back to my chat, if I go back to my chat category where I have a list of all my teams, I could go to a team, to a channel. And where would I use a loop component from here? Well, one place that I would use it is in a post. So what if I want everybody that's a part of this accounting department, part of the accounts payable team, when they go to that post, I want them to collaborate with me. Let's say that we're going to be doing a Teams event planning. We're going to be planning a Teams event, and we want people to interact with us on the planning side of it. I'm going to go and create a new post by clicking Start a New Post at the top. I'm going to put in what my subject is going to be, where I'm going to put in Team Event Planning, and I'm going to put in here, use the loop component at the bottom to put in your suggestions, to add your ideas and suggestions. So I'm going to give them some information about what they're going to do with this loop component. And then down at the bottom in my tools, I'm going to go to the loop component. So that same icon that we saw before is here. I'm going to click on that loop component. Once again, I'm going to be able to choose the different templates that we have available depending on what type of a component I really want to create. So if we're going to do something that is going to be, kind of everybody's going to submit their ideas, I might want to use a checklist. Matthew, does somebody have a question?
Yeah. Someone was wondering, so their team is not all on the same page in terms of adopting online communication. So they're wondering, is there a way to save the team agenda feature as a document once it's complete so that it can be recorded as a file for other people to view it?
That's actually a great question, and I'll show you how that works once we get into the actual app called Loop. Okay?
Okay,
So
great.
I'll show that here in just a minute.
Sweet, thank you.
Good. So what I did was I clicked on Task List just to give you an idea of another component that you could be using. Now, I could have done checklist, I could do task list, I could do voting table. It's got all these different things that we can be adding in, depending on, of course, what type of a component you want. So I just chose this one that it's a task list where we can actually assign. So this is another way that you could use a task list, just to give you an idea of different options that we have. So anyway, I'm just going to use this one to show you. If I come in and I enter in a task name, maybe I'm going to have for this, we're doing some brainstorming of some ideas for this event planning. And one of them is to find a facility for the event. And who do we want to assign that to? We could choose who we're assigning it to. And then we'll have the ability of putting in a date. So we could select a due date. And if we want to organize this with buckets, we also have the ability to do that. Now, other people can come in here and add to this that are a part of this team. They go to the team, they go to the channel. Right here in this post, once I post this is going to be a live component that they can keep coming back to and adding these different ideas or tasks, whatever you're using. Now I'm just going to click post so that you can see how that will automatically look in the actual post itself. So lots of different options depending on what it is that you need. Things will automatically be available for people to come back and use. But let's see how we can use this in a different way and how you're going to be able to see those updates. Another common place to use a loop component is in Outlook. Matthew, did we have a question?
Yeah, we do. So would you be able to see the past agendas collected in one place, or would you need to open each meeting separately? And then would this still work if it is in a weekly series meeting?
So yes, it works in a weekly. So if you have a reoccurring, it
Yeah.
can be a different agenda for each time.
Okay.
Okay. So that is a yes. Where you're going to go to find these, usually if you want to find information about a past meeting, you go back to that meeting.
Right.
Otherwise, the only other way that you're going to be able to get to a loop component is by going to the loop app.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll show you that once I go into that loop app.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let me actually go to Outlook and show you how I can use a loop component here. So let's say that you start an email and you're going to send an email to a group of people. We can actually take that email and add a loop component so that it can be a place for us to have live collaboration. Now you think of an email as I'm going to email it to someone, they're going to reply back, then you're going to reply, then they're going to reply. The loop component does not need to be sent back and forth and back and forth. You'll see a demonstration of that here in a second. So I have this email that I'm creating to my team where I want them to share ideas and suggestions. So I typed out the email, I hope everybody's doing good, whatever. I have this paragraph here. Please feel free to share your ideas or suggestions for our new system. Your input is valuable, etc. I could say, enter your suggestions in the loop component below. So I'll add that. Enter your suggestions in the loop below. So I'm going to insert a loop by going to the Insert tab of the ribbon. I'm going to click Loop Component. You're going to see a list of loop component options that we could be starting with. If you're not familiar with what these look like, highly recommend practicing with these. You could always delete the loop component and not use it, but until you actually see them, it's kind of hard to figure out which one should I use. So anyway, I just want to kind of show you a few examples. I'm going to do a checklist. I'm going to choose a checklist loop component. And you're going to see up at the top, I can add a title for it. So this is going to be related to implementing a new task list system. So that's going to be the title of this. So what I want to do is go to where it says add title, and I'm going to put in implementing a new task list system. So that's going to be the title of this loop component. Then we can make a list down at the bottom where it says send this list to others to start collaborating as people, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, just so you could see, this is where we can put in our suggestions. I need to be able to see the list from my phone. Will it be able to do that? Somebody else, once I send this to whoever I'm sending it to, they can continue to add to this list. So let me send this email to my student one so that you can see how they can collaborate with it as well. So I'm going to go to the top of my message and click send. Then I'm going to go to my student one email here. And here's that email called share ideas or suggestions. Hi team, please feel to share your ideas below. So here's that loop component that was started with myself. So I can come in and add things as well. I would like to have a field for a due date. So I can keep adding to it, and so can anybody else that received that message or anybody else that we end up sharing this loop component with. Now, when I talk about sharing, just so you can see, view all components is a link inside this email. I don't have to reply back to the person for them to see my update that I just did in that loop component. I'll go back to my Jolene account here in a second and show you how that travels back. But just so you're seeing at the top right, I could share this component. So if I choose share, I could actually choose where I want to save it to. I even have the ability of adding this to a loop workspace. Now we'll get to the workspace here in a moment, but just so you're noticing, you have these additional icons. If I want to copy this component and paste it someplace else, I could do that. Because what if we started this in an email, but now I want this loop component to also be available someplace else? I'm going to go ahead and click copy loop component. It's holding it in my clipboard. I can then navigate to where I might want to put this loop component. So I'm going to go to OneNote. I'm going to go to OneNote Notebook. And let's say I wanted to go to this accounting department notebook, to this accounts receivable section, to this page. I'm going to paste it. So this is going to automatically paste the same loop component to be available here. So anybody that has access to this OneNote notebook now can collaborate with us on this loop component. So that's another option for you. I emailed it to somebody, I put it in a chat, I put it on a post, whatever. You still can copy it and put it in other locations, and it's still going to do the live updates. So let's say that I go back to my Outlook. Let's say I go back to my Outlook, and I already sent this message to, so I'm back in my Jolene email. I sent this message to student one with this loop component. I can see what I typed in. I can see what that student one typed in. If anybody added anything to the OneNote notebook loop component, they're going to see it as well. So I'll add another item. Add another item of suggestions. Just so you can see that this really is live. It's also updated back in my OneNote notebook. So we can have this live collaboration going on inside these loop components, whether they're in chat, they're in a post, they're in an email, they're in a meeting. We can have everybody contributing to these different options that we have. So I really think that, to be honest, in my world, I think this is a program that's underrated. I don't think enough people know how easy it is to work and how great it can be to help you organize your data. So, Matthew, did somebody have a comment or question?
Yeah, I actually have two, if that's okay.
Yes,
Uh, the first one is I don't see loop components in my Outlook. Does this mean that I need to upgrade or update my Outlook?
possibly.
Hmm.
It can depend on their Microsoft licensing.
Okay. Is
So,
so different
otherwise, it's
licensing
there by
permits
default.
it's there by default as long as you have the most up-to-date version of Outlook.
Well, you have to not only have, well, I could use this in the classic version of Outlook too. So it's
Okay.
not just for the brand new version of Outlook, it's also available for the classic version of Outlook. But
Would it appear in the same place in the classic version in the insert tab?
it's on insert. When they're composing a message, it's on that insert tab. Now,
Okay.
they could talk to their IT department and see if they have it enabled, because there
Uh,
could be a chance that they disabled it. So
so
that could be the issue.
the admin of your Microsoft license can disable
Yes.
loop components
We can
from your
say we don't
Microsoft
want
license.
people to use it.
Right, but for free, you can enable that as long as you have a
Correct.
Microsoft license.
Correct.
Awesome.
Okay.
Um, I have another question. This is
Mhm.
bringing it back to the task list in Teams. Um,
Uh-huh.
can you make the task list and have people assign themselves to the tasks?
Yes.
Yes, plain and
Yes.
simple.
I assigned myself, because let's say that I'm using this in a meeting.
Yeah,
You're going to have tasks that you need to do as well. So it's good that we can assign them to ourselves.
yeah,
That was a good question. I'm glad they asked.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what I really like about this is it is live. It's a interactive tool that we can continue using, but I did a copy into a OneNote notebook. Just so you're aware, I could also add a loop component directly within a OneNote notebook. I don't have to copy it from someplace else. This is where one of the places that I use loop components a lot, because a lot of times in the OneNote notebook is where we're doing our brainstorming and doing all of our interactions, kind of working together as a team to come up with, what are we going to do for this event or whatever the case might be. This is a great location to use the loop component. So from the insert tab in OneNote, you will have access to your loop component. So I just click loop component. I can choose all of these different template options that we have available. And just so you could see, let me give you another example of one. I'm going to click Progress Tracker. I'm going to choose Progress Tracker just to show you another example of a loop component template that we have available. What this one is going to do, which by the way, I can resize this loop component. So right now I have a scroll bar at the bottom. I can't see all of my table columns. If I put my mouse on the right-hand side, I can make the window bigger so we can see the entire area, all the fields within this. But it's basically going to give you a title at the top again. And then in that title, you can type in what you need to have for the name of this. And let's say that this was going to be related to status updates. We're working on a project and we want to keep track of status updates. I could go into the first column, type in what the work area is, put in who the owner is, put in what the status is, etc., etc. So let's say that the work area is the exterior work, and the owner is going to be myself. The status over on the right-hand side is a menu. So that's what I like about these templates. We don't have to build anything from scratch. We use a template so that it gives us options. Now we can always add options down at the bottom, but I'm going to say that this is in progress. Then I could go to the column for end date, choose what the end date is going to be, and then I could add in any blockers if I had blockers. Anybody that has access to this OneNote notebook would be able to come in here and update their information. Add information as they know what the information is. We can put in, like if I add another one, oops, I'll put in interior work. Can I assign this to somebody else? Yes, I can assign that to somebody else, and it's gonna, you can see that it says to give this person access and notify them, click on this message, because they're not a part of this notebook. So if they're not a part of the notebook, we need to share things and notify them. So that person wasn't a part of the original notebook. So I'm going to share it with them. I'm going to click share and notify. Now they have permissions to use this notebook with us and contribute to this loop component. So now they can come in and work with it as well. So I won't add in their status because I don't know their status, but they could come in and do that. So it's very interactive from one program to another with multiple people that you're working with. I truly love these loop components being built in and available here in OneNote. If I want to add another one, I can click in my section, click on a page, and I can always go back to insert loop component, because sometimes on one page, I'm going to have multiple loop components. So if I want to come in and I want to just create a table, I could say, give me a table, but then I can create the table to be what I want it to be. So if we want to have task name, we want to have a column for task description. Oops, sorry. I can add additional columns to this. So I can keep adding information to this because, and I can switch my view. I can sort things just so you could see. I could filter my list. I can hide columns. I could change the height of rows, just so you're seeing all these great options that we have. So anyway, just so you could see, I could come in then and I could be putting in what the name of the task is. I could put in the task description. Maybe this is going to be my list of milestones, whatever your case might be. Loop components can have these different templates to give you different elements inside each of the components that you add in. So pretty great. I can't say enough about using these loop components. And like I said, I don't think enough people truly understand how great they are. I don't think they're being used as much as they really could be used. But these are loop components that I am adding to other applications. Let me show you the Loop app itself. So if you want to go to the Loop app, you can go to your Microsoft account. This would be one way to get there. So if I log into my Microsoft account, I can go to my apps launcher, where of course you'll see every app that you have available. And from here, you can open up Loop. Once you open up the Loop app, you're going to have a menu on the left-hand side. Oops, sorry. Wants me to sign in. I have multiple accounts too, so it's kind of weird on that. But while I'm getting signed in, Matthew, what's the question?
Yeah, someone is wondering, can you have the tasks link to an already established planner.
Can I have the task? So this is a loop component on its own.
Okay.
It's not directly going to link to an existing task
Okay.
planner, a
Okay.
task
So it's
list.
separate from planner.
Correct.
So but you can, relatively, you can put the loop link pretty much anywhere.
Correct. I could
Yeah.
put the loop link anywhere, even in the description of a task.
There we go. Okay. In
Okay.
planner, in the
Technically.
description of a task, you could technically put the link to a loop
Correct.
if you wanted to.
And then they could click the link to go to it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to add the task from the loop component to the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So just so you could see, when you come into the Loop app, you can see on the left-hand side, it has, and let me expand this out so you can see it a little bit better. But what you're going to see is you could create new from the top. So if I wanted to create like a new workspace, etc., I have a search option so I could search through my different Loop components. I have notifications area. I have my recent components. And I could get into my meeting notes, which I'll show you that in just a second. But on the right-hand side, it knows my time from my computer. I'm in the afternoon. And up at the top, you can see that it's got workspaces. And I can see this is my workspace. I can see I've got other workspaces that I've used throughout different years. I've got this one down here from 2023 that I was using for my IT department. But if I want to see recent components and pages, I can click the link at the tab at the top. And here it's going to show me my recent components. So recently I had that project update. You could see it was 4 minutes ago. I have that share ideas or suggestions that I was in. I have my accounts payable loop component that I did 20 minutes ago. If I click on that, it's going to open that loop component. I don't have to be in the original physical location of where that component was located at. In the app, you will have access to all of your components. So I could continue to update and see live updates from other people adding information to that component. But let me take you back to the left-hand side for a second. If you click meeting notes, it's going to show you a list of recent meeting notes. Here's my one from that I just did called HR department meeting. Here's the one that I just did. So here's the agenda I started. Here's my meeting notes, which I'll be able to get back to because right now it's sorted by week. This is the only one I had for this week. But if I go to this icon, I could select a week. So then I would see anywhere that I used the agenda feature for that week. I guess I haven't used it for a while. All of mine are usually training ones, and I don't get invited to meetings where people are using that. But just so you could see that, you could go to other weeks and see agendas from there. So great option. So I hope that answered the question from earlier, Matthew, for that person. So the answer is yes, conveniently located on the left-hand side. But let's get back into this a little bit because we had this option for at the main menu. So if I click on the left-hand side, if I click on the loop icon at the very top where I had all these workspaces, let me show you first what would you do with a workspace. I'm going to go into this one called New Hires. And when I click on this, we can have different components and different pages for doing collaboration inside Loop. We can use these workspaces to compile multiple things together. So what you're going to see on the left-hand side, this is a list of the different components that I have, the different things that I've added. So this is actually a page on this right-hand side. And I can add different things to these pages. You could see at the top, I could even add an icon. I could add a cover to the page. So let me just quickly add one so you can see this page can have a cover at the top. And then this can be our collaboration with different components going all the way down. On the left-hand side, I also have this one called Untitled that I added in, where I started a new page. I haven't named it yet, but I could create a new page by just going to that middle part of the window, click Create New Page. Then you can have a cover at the top. You can have an icon. You could put in what the title is going to be. So what information are you going to collaborate on? So we have this event planning we're doing. So this is going to be a page where we're going to collaborate on our event planning. I can even use Copilot, which is fantastic. We can use Copilot to help us with this page as well. But you could see down below, here's some suggestions of what you might add to the page. Do I want to have a project brief? Do I want to have a team discussion? Project planning? Do I want to have meeting notes? I'm going to click project brief. So that component is turned on. So you could see this is what it's going to include. We would put in an overview. We can add in goals. We can put in our team members. It's even got a list for project deliverables. It's got relevant links. So all of this can be included. So I'm sliding this button over for include content into this. So you can see it can add information into these just so you could see how you could use it. If I slide that button off, it gives me a blank. So I'm just doing things on my own. But otherwise, if you want some suggestions, you could slide that over to say include content. But what if I also want to be adding in meeting notes? I could choose meeting notes as well. That can be added into this page. So we can continue to add in different components that would be relative for managing this whole entire workspace. So you could see on the left-hand side, I'm in my meeting notes right now. That's a page. I could go back to my team discussion. I could go back to my PM. Sorry, that was a link to something else. I could go back to my new hire process, that loop component that I happened to add to this earlier. So I have access to all of this that we can have within a workspace and collaborate multiple things in one place. It uses pages. It's very similar to me, like having my OneNote notebook. And to be honest, I probably use my OneNote notebook more than I do workspaces, but in my OneNote notebook, I use loop components. I just don't have a habit of coming out here and doing a workspace. It's just not working perfectly for me. I like OneNote better. But just so you could see, what if I wanted to get back to creating, or seeing all of my components again? I don't want to have to go back and find the email, go back and find the chat that I had put that component in. Once again, you could go back to the left-hand side, click loop at the top, click recent components and pages, and you will have access to pages and every component that you have been working with. So I had one back on March 19th that I did that was part of an AP department meeting. So I created this and I could get back to it at any time. If I click my back arrow, I could go back to my components, and if I want to go into a different one, I can scroll through, find whichever one it is I want to go into, and I'll be able to go into that component. They stay here until you delete them. They stay here until you delete them. Okay? So we can always have these loop components just be within loop. I don't have to add a loop component to a task, to an email, to a chat, to a post, to my OneNote notebook, to a whiteboard. I really could be doing it directly here in this Loop app. Then share it with other people. So if I have this Loop component that I created, I could go to the top right and click share. I could share a page link or just a loop component. So if I was in a page and I want to share that entire page with somebody, which most of the time I do, I would have the ability of being able to go in and share that with the coworker. So the link has been copied, but before I paste it, just so you could see, I could go into settings. And from the settings, I could make changes to the security and stuff before I share it. Otherwise, I have that copied. Now I can go and paste it wherever I want to paste it. If I want to put it in an email, on my OneNote notebook, on a Word document, wherever you want to put it, you could actually paste it. So just so you could see, let's say that I wanted to put this in a Word document. Let me show you how this would actually work. Let me bring my Word document over. So if I'm in a Word document, I just did a Control V. It brings it in as a link, not inserting the component itself. Whoever has this link would be able to click on it and it would take them directly to that loop component, where they of course then have access to adding in different information, that kind of thing. So it's a great way to collaborate. But you definitely want to spend some time checking out the different options for the loop components so that you have a good idea as to which template would be best for me to use. So if I'm going to put this in a post and I want people to be able to type in it, which one should I really be using? So go to your OneNote. This is where a good place to do this at. You could go to your OneNote notebook. And what I sometimes will do is have a page that I can go to. Sorry, let me get back there. Get back to my OneNote notebook here. I could have a page of examples. I did this when I first started with Loop because I wanted to insert Loop components and I wanted to see what they all looked like. So I created a page, called it Loop Components, and then inserted all these different components so that I could start practicing with those. So what's the difference between this one over this one, etc. So you can see the differences between those. So if I add this team retrospect, you can see what that one would give you. Because the more you get familiar with what they include, the more you'll know which ones should you be using. Okay? So Matthew, have you ever used a loop component before?